the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, this is a public work session. That's why we have a lot of people sitting up here. But we also have public comments. And so, Ms. Jocelyn, you are up. Okay. Tell her schedule needs.
So I'm here to help promote the new stage that has been ideated, and this project would be so beneficial for our school, for our entire arts program. Mr. Champion has done a fantastic job, especially since my sixth grade year, of growing our arts program. We have a much bigger theater, much bigger band. We just got all of the new band equipment for the marching band, and this just shows that this project would be absolutely fantastic addition to our school. I know that it was talked about with like the Fieldhouse edition, but right now this is definitely something that we need to be working on. This project is a lot that we can do, and it's going to be really beneficial, especially for the younger generations that are going to come up for the school. One problem that I know that we have with the stage, especially, is storage. We have to kind of Tetris everything. So being able to get this new stage would add a lot more storage for us, and it would be really beneficial to all of our band programs, being able to have room to move, especially on stage when they're set. I've heard a lot of the band members say that they don't have a ton of space between their chairs and their music stands to try and squeeze out to get to the mic when they're like performing a piece. So being able to have more space to be able to breathe would just be super beneficial for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Addition to the agenda, we have just one short thing.
Yeah, couple action items actually, because we do have a forum here tonight and it is a public session, so there are public are invited. There's two different things we're gonna do. One is we know we were doing all of our new bringing our kitchen on board where we're self-operating, and so with that we had last meeting approved some positions. Well, this week we realized we need one more added to that list to round everything out. So I'm just asking in the first consideration, just to add one more position to our kitchen staff to round that out. As Lori's been working really hard to get that going, we just need to add one more staff position to that. Just asking for that action item, please.
Hope is that this additional position will also be, self-funded, if you will.
Oh yes.
And there's no concern if it's not that, and we have to.
What we've found is several of the positions are not working the full 28.5 hours. Some of them are like 15 hours, those types of things. So there's room in there for that. They're not all those full positions.
To me, it sounds like if we need it, we need it. But it also sounds like, if we create the position, that we would probably want to reevaluate in a year to make sure it's still needed.
That's true.
How many more staff are there compared to how many there were before?
That's a Lori question. Hey, Lori, can you answer that question, please?
I was just curious how many more staff this is compared to what we had before.
16. That's what I had before. I had 9 to care for those classes.
Motion. Move to approve the additional kitchen staff position.
Second.
I move to approve the additional staff for the kitchen position. Joe seconded that. All those in favor? Thank you. All right, consideration of food service hires.
Yeah, and the reason we're doing this tonight is because our board meeting is next Wednesday, and we're actually bringing them on the 16th. So I wanted to make sure we had all those folks hired prior to that. We could do it after that, but it's always better to do it before they're actually before their start date. So because this is not a consent agenda, I need to read each of their names and then the positions that they're taking, and then we can take it, if it's okay with you, one vote for all of those positions.
Oh,
Okay. So first will be Nancy Ashcraft as the kitchen assistant lead. Then we have Barbara Cummings as the kitchen lead. Amy Jankowski, I apologize if I read these names wrong, Lori. Amy Jankowski, kitchen lead. Luella Grimes as a kitchen lead. Bobby Siddons as kitchen staff. Renee Crooks as kitchen staff. Anne Marie Bunton as kitchen staff. Deborah Kleiss as kitchen staff. Lois, is it Katie? Okay, as kitchen staff. Pamela Keene, kitchen staff. Perry Nichols, kitchen staff, and Colleen Higgins, kitchen staff. And that would be the list for to get started on 16th,
And you said, did you say Anne Marie?
17th, sorry.
You said Anne Marie Button, right?
Anne Marie Button.
Okay. All right.
I'll second it.
I made a motion to approve the food service hires. Wade seconded that. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right.
I know
So,
Lori does. She doesn't want to do all that all herself.
so we have presentations which will start with art and music. No, no, I'll start. And then we'll actually do ag and then before we move on. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Are you? Okay, so sorry.
Give you what she.
There are several people that need to leave, and so if we could, just remember that, and anybody that needs to leave at any point in time, feel free. Okay. Thank you. Okay, now I'm ready. So I guess I assume I was going first just kind of give an overview. So I'm sorry about that if I messed up the order tonight. The first thing I wanted to say is just thank the board that in recent projects that we've done, um, everybody's been so thoughtful and community oriented in terms of getting input from everybody. When I was hired in the fall 2000, within a short time, there were a lot of other teachers here, and within a short time, we were invited to this meeting where we were going to hear from architects who were doing building here at that time. And the project was the middle school, which got built out before. And we all sat down, we were invited to the meeting as teachers, and we spoke about what we thought we needed guidance and I was new staff, right? But we had a staff here. And release it would roll out, and some of the teachers agreed that they didn't approve the process. And it was like the night was something that's all we needed. They came in and they needed something, and there wasn't that sense that the community was so into it. And one of the examples was that there was a phase two, and we know as a group there's never was a phase two. And yes, personalities of people that were on the staff phase two, and so they felt like people were communicated, not in a good way, in a sad way that there wasn't a phase two, but they built some rooms that are beautiful, right, and really useful, in a math classroom. And it's never been used. I know Scott was in there one day, so he's going to be like, oh my gosh, it's just so completely shut off because middle school kids in there, right? So it was just a lot of expensive, but we didn't use the way we intended, and so it's that's way on my heart as I had an opportunity to watch some of these projects with you guys, and it's just been amazing that I feel like the money has gone to what we have right now, the needs we have right now. As soon as things have been completed, we've been using the heck out of it. And so I'm excited about, I know the piles of money are always bigger than the funds available, but thank you guys for hearing all of this and letting all this have an input and the whole community gets to speak into that, because I think the work that we've completed speaks to that because the community loves what's being done. So the size of South Putnam, so just went back to 2009 because it was fastest, but just trying to get a sense of like where are we at in terms of graduating class sizes. You can see this year we're on pace to graduate 90 kids. And then if you go down
our classes that are coming up, and we get some shift, right? As kids come up through school, we gain some kids, sometimes in middle and high school, because 20 to 25% of the kids in any given grade come here, right? Those are out of district students who choose to come to South. And so we will attract more kids, and so sometimes those numbers bump up a little bit. But I think it's important when people ask how big South Putnam, and you say, oh, we graduate 80 to 100 kids a year. That's pretty stable, and it's been pretty stable, and it fluctuates by cohorts. That's pretty much the size that we are. And so when I think about current renovations and things that are going to impact kids for the next 10 years, I feel pretty good about where we're at in terms of things pretty comfortable in the number of things we have now. Kind of the categories together. I was thinking about how to organize the things that we need. Obviously, a top priority is improving education opportunities and the environment. Safety is always a big concern, and our school incorporation and people. The thing about the local high school is we say we want students to have a positive, memorable, life-changing experience and be ready for the next step and gain improvements while they accomplish that. So, you table sheet has various categories, so this is just gonna follow those. I'm not gonna pay for everything, because some of them are a little bit more self-explanatory. But I did want to explain some of the things that are on the list. So we're gonna start with ag powers lab and ag powers interpretation. We're actually blocking our session a little bit differently here with ag. So that is for that area 3 experience, where they get to spend half of the day in the program. Because sometimes we'll lose kids to area 30 areas, maybe for a natural art institute, and probably pay for the opportunity for them to do that. Lost classes and better opportunities for ability to get that same experience for our ag classes. So they can spend morning and night program or an afternoon. After I give you information, I want to say my little piece too. Our course request reflects strong interest in this program. It's a program we have right now and a program that will continue to grow. Brian is doing individual course request meetings with every kid this year, and he's halfway through the senior class of meeting back with them individually. And we already have 10 kids signed up for the Ag Powers block. So that shows you the interest, and there's money behind that, right? So remember, it's 3 classes. So they've got ag powers and fabrication, and then they have a capstone. And so you get 715 for this class, 715 for this class, same kid. And then you get 1,071 for that capstone. Again, same kid, right?
2,400.
Right. And think about, you put 15 kids, 20 kids in a room, which again, we already have 10 and we're only halfway through the senior class. So I know we're going to have more seniors want it, and we have juniors that want that program as well. Kids could take that as a junior or a senior, and then if they take it as a junior and then they want to do a work-based learning experience outside the building their senior year, they can do it. And these are the kinds of options kids are looking for when they're trying to say, what does high school look like? And which high school am I going to go to? These are the kinds of things that make them choose us. It aligns to the new work-based learning requirements. Kids have to have a seal with their diploma now. Like, the new accountability model came out, and if you don't have a seal, then the school accountability score gets hurt. It's kind of like kids were expected to get a core 40, and if they got less than a core 40, it was a penalty. It's the same thing with the seals. And the honors plus and the employability skill both require work-based learning. So we want to have those opportunities right in our classes. So it aligns to both work-based learning and the new diploma seals. It also reflects that practical hands-on skills our students, community, employers want. Every time we ask families, what should education look like? They tell us, why don't kids have more practical skills, right? Why can't kids just do some basic things to understand their homes and how to function in life? When I go to the workforce learn, said that wrong. Workforce development, thank you. Workforce development meetings. Dr. Smith and I go to those. We hear from the employers in the community, and they want students that have these practical skills. And so Cameron will tell you a little bit more about that, but they're doing wiring, small engine repair, they're building walls, they're using tools and getting that practical experience. And I already told you kids want that too. It will align with our STEM initiative. So we've started that at the elementaries. It'll be coming up to the middle school, and this aligns beautifully with that. And Cameron also has opportunity to work with other classes, and he'll talk a little bit more about that too. The next thing you'll see on there is an updated stage and cafe seating area. I won't spend as much time talking about drama and music because Thomas is going to talk more about that piece. But it is it's a learning space, right? And if we're talking about how are we going to update learning spaces in the building, the stage is a learning space. Both for our drama and music programs. We have classrooms that use the stage as well. Mrs. Hauser always does a unit at the end of one semester where kids go up and perform part of a Shakespearean play. So it's used during the day as well. The current technology is outdated and it's not integrated. We have this old, I don't know, 1989 or something computer up there that you have to boot up and hope that it does it one more time in order to turn on the lights and sound. So it's bleak. It's pretty bad. And it's not integrated, right? So the screens that we put in a few years ago on each side, several years ago, on each side of the stage, it's great, right? We utilize that all the time, but that's not integrated with the full system. And so we really need a plug and go system. The flooring and visuals are not modern and appealing. The floor just looks kind of unappetizing. We just can't get it clean, and we have custodians that work their tail off at getting things clean. And the room itself, when you see that picture, it just doesn't reflect the modern look that we have in the rest of the more updated parts of the building. It should reflect our pride of as our school and our community. You can see, in addition to the performances that we have there, we do our academic award ceremonies, parent nights, club inductions, athletic dinners and awards, trainings. For our kids, they were at the seminar. This is one of our seminar pictures. Karen Haven comes in and does trainings with kids. We hosted, ONT came in and used our facility this summer to host trainings, and they were in the cafeteria. The number one thing I heard from teachers as a whole was that they want their classroom furniture, flooring, and technology updated. I took some pictures of some of the classrooms. So you see in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got some updated furniture, and those are the kinds of things that teachers want. Some teachers want just big tables, and we can have some of that in the building. We can't have only big tables in the building because when we do testing, the state tells us we've got to have individual desks. But a lot of the teachers will push, like the units where you can easily push them together and create pods. Up above that, though, you see a teacher who doesn't have access to new furniture, and so she has me do and pull different cast-off furniture from around the building, but that doesn't reflect the kind of learning environment we want for our kids. In the bottom left-hand corner, you see one of our math classrooms. Probably looks the same as it did, 30 years ago, right?
I can guarantee it was 96 because I watched a video last night of 96 and it was the same desk.
And they're starting to break down. John was saying that Seth was talking about how often we're having to throw out desks and chairs now because they've just had their last breath, right? That classroom over on the left-hand side was actually my old classroom when I first started teaching here, and it looks the same, except there's a lot more stains on the floor, right? Because it's just been 25 years. So our teachers make do, but they deserve better, and our kids deserve better in our classrooms. The smart boards are just different versions, different years that they've been put in. They don't connect very well, so we need updates there. The second thing I heard a lot from teachers was heating, cooling, and humidity solutions for classrooms. I don't know what this looks like. I know we all feel a little frustration because we did the updated air in the science classrooms, and we're still struggling with that. The biggest issue we have in the building is humidity. Right, like it is so wet in this building. John and I were talking about it, and it's like we could have a humidifier in every classroom, and they would still be running all the time. You can see the one in that science classroom, like they put a hose on it, right, so it can drip into a sink all the time because they fill up so often. And when we talk to different air people, and obviously Jared can speak better about this, but we just have a humidity issue. And even though we've air conditioned the gym and we've updated the science area, we still fight humidity a lot. We don't want to have an air quality issue like Greencastle did a few years ago, right? We fight that all the time, and we haven't had that, but we don't want that. The univents, I don't know. I know they serve their purpose. The teachers are asking if we keep them, can we just make some of them quieter? we did the SAT today, and we did it down in the math part of the building, so it was quieter down there. And one of the teachers, math teachers, was out of her room, and she was in Mr. Welty's room, and he has that unit is above where his board is at, and then he's got a humidifier on the floor. And she was like, between the two, she was like, "What did you say?" Like she was just kind of laughing because it compromises things. Okay. Art classroom sinks. I think the one on the left looks a lot like an old kitchen sink, right? And I think that's because it probably is, right? And the problem with that is because when they wash their hands off, when they've used clay and things, that's getting down in the drains, and they're just not made to handle that. So we just need updated sinks in the art area, and they do such beautiful work, award-winning work out of that space. We want to make sure that they're getting the type of equipment that they need in there. And when I asked Tosca, that was her big thing. And you had additional information?
Yeah, she sent me a little bit more information about the sinks and what she's envisioning. So she did apologize that she couldn't be here tonight. She says, I have a few items that I feel could be addressed in the upcoming project. These include replacing and adding new sinks in the art room. There is a significant need for 4 total sinks with 5-gallon traps for our daily usage. There are a few additional items which could be reviewed, including removing the paint booth, removing an old sink that is unusable, and replacing the countertop in that area, and purchasing new tables for students to work at. Thank you so much for your time and consideration, Tosca Ronza.
Do the current sinks have clay traps?
They should, but evidently they're not big enough to keep it from
clogging up.
Jared, do the current sinks have clay traps?
Yes, they do.
But are they just 1 gallon or something? Not
They're
the
just
5
like
gallons?
1 gallon clay. They're clay traps. And honestly, it doesn't matter if they're 2 gallon. I mean, they're still got to be emptied.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it depends on how much paint
The
goes
bigger
through
they
there.
are, the longer they don't have to be emptied, and the more they stink.
Right. So, I mean, no matter what sinks you put in, you're still going to have to empty traps. I mean, that's just all what it is.
And I love like Tosca's note. That's so much our teachers when they're like, could I just please have this one little thing and it would make my classroom better. They're just they're so just kind and appreciative. Just like when they were like, could I just have better chairs? Like, could I just have, their asks have been small in their classrooms. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to say that that's the big thing we hear from them, right?
The current tables in there look like they came from Railsville.
They're old.
Yeah. And they're not. Yeah, sorry.
I'm sure
the art room does need some work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just as bad as it was when my kids were using the space.
Yeah. So when we ask for new furniture and things, that obviously would include the art room.
The sink that you're seeing in the left, that is actually does not work. The clay tile that is underground for the drain is broken. So when I got here, that was one of the requests that we had. I don't think Tosca was here then. I forget the teacher. So brought an auger in, augered it about 15 feet and got mud. So the tiles broke. That's why that sink on that side of the room does not work.
So that could just be taken out rather than.
You could, and just add 4 sinks on the other side of the wall where everything's good. Yeah. But there's only one drain that we could tell that went from that side, and it just ties into the other side. So it ultimately be easier to put the sinks all along one wall. So.
Okay, the tennis courts, I just want to show you some pictures. You guys have probably seen this. It's getting almost unplayable, really. It's just because you can see stuff starting to grow up in the cracks. So the concern is we're going to have to make a decision soon if we're going to keep them, right? Just because they'll continue to break down if we don't resurface them. And they are in the front of our building, and we do use them in the fall and spring. We have 2 tennis teams. And we also use them during PE. When I went out today and took big pictures, you can see the kid in the blue shirt. He was out there, and the PE class was outside having a unit today. The media room, this is when Cameron vacates his space, the back of his space can be converted into a media room. It's going to have to be converted from what it is, right? So right now, it's a shop area. You've got the plugins hanging down, the outlets hanging down from the ceiling. You've got a big garage door, exterior garage door. We're going to have to do something with that space if we're going to use it for something else. So really, I'm just asking to turn it back into like a classroom type environment. But we would put in that space right now, I foresee, is a media room. And we went to Edgewood and I went to Monrovia and we looked at their spaces. So you see Edgewood on the left. Bringing it into a media room really isn't expensive. It's just like a classroom. You can put a green screen behind it. They did this thing, they made this collage. You can kind of see on the left hand side. And then whenever they took pictures or they did videos, this is student created content, then they had that cool backdrop behind them. And the students were the ones who created that backdrop. Over on Monrovia's side, they had more like they purchased something that they had behind the kids, but you can see the spaces are pretty rudimentary. It's not a complicated thing. And we're trying to move towards student produced media as opposed to just the adults posting because that's what kids want. And we've started to see a little bit of that this year, right? Right at that graphic imaging class, they started creating some content that was being shared out online. So when you saw some of those cool pictures with some of the banners and stuff on it, some of the adults created some of that, but we also had students that started creating some of that. And that's really the forward vision is to have kids take over.
So what teacher would staff that?
Right now, we don't have a teacher for that. I'm not asking to add a position. We do have a staff member who has some experience with that. I've also been working with our current yearbook teacher because she's wanting to offer both a physical, hardback yearbook plus do an online yearbook. It's been one of the things that we've been exploring so that when our kids go out and take pictures, you're posting a couple of them on the social media feed for the school. And then there's a link where if people who have access to that then can look at additional pictures and they can share more content online in addition to what you're seeing, in a stationary yearbook. But we don't want to give up having a stationary yearbook because you still want an archive of the school year, right? So this, I could use current staff to be able to offer some programming in this area. The other thing, the other thing is our coaches could use it after school as a place to watch film because it's a wide room. And so there would be an opportunity if we have it set up as a classroom that they could also use it as a film viewing room. And that's part of the reason that we're using the word media. So during the day, it's being used as a classroom. It could also be a large instruction space if we don't have a media class each period, obviously. And then after school, like our big football team could go in there and watch film. It could be a space where they could watch film because it's a bigger room. Right now, this year they were in JC's room and it was a tight fit, but they made it. But okay, the hospitality room, I'm mostly asking for flooring because I'm trying to be really efficient with the money and I know there's a big needs throughout the corporation. That my first ask would be flooring. It's kind of like the cafeteria. It's just stained and gross. When we took out the cabinets in the middle of the room, if you remember, we had the really tall cabinets that kind of divided the room. They went in and patched the flooring and look, it worked at the time, but you can see it. And again, it's just the grout lines are gross. You just can't get it clean. It is our hospitality space, so it reflects our school, but also it's used actively. Our ag classes are in there doing food science labs. Spanish goes in there, and they've made food for units. A lot of our Thomas was in there. He had a Mardi Gras event in there. We use it throughout the day as a learning space. So I don't want to give up those kitchen spaces. Ideally, it'd be so cool if we could tear out cabinets and put new appliances in. But I know that's a bigger ask. So I'm starting with, can we get new flooring in there so it looks like a more updated space? Okay, so moving on to safety. The first thing that you're going to see on there is accurate and updated middle school, high school maps. This is a need because we've had construction in the last couple of years and we've not updated our maps since then. The first image that you're going to see is our current map that we use on our safety plan. And John can tell you a little bit about that, but you're going to notice a couple of things. First of all, the hallways don't exactly line up perfectly and everything's not perfectly proportional because John spent hours literally just going in and drawing these lines in so that we would have something that we could put in our safety plan to meet those regulations. The other thing you're going to notice is the field house isn't there because we went in and John went in and tried to draw the things in when we renovated the PE locker spaces, but this is not an updated map. So I'll let John tell you a little bit more about the safety needs in regard to maps and things.
Yeah, so we need to have an accurate maps of the buildings, all three of them. Yeah, to be honest, the other ones are less up to date than these. And then on this map, we would want to have AED locations, fire extinguisher locations, and then individual maps for each classroom with primary, secondary exit routes for evacuation situations. And then we obviously have posters that say you go to this place for shelter and so on. But we would want to do that I would suggest do it for all three buildings. We definitely need it for the high school, middle school, because again, this is my terrible work. And it needs to be updated so that people know where they're at in the building and so that we have accurate safety plans.
And Indiana code requires us to have an updated safety plan, and this is one of the
Is
requirements.
that
in that
something that
safety plan.
some outside service does?
Yeah, so there's,
Or-
I've looked at a couple different outside services. They come in, the best ones come in with like a backpack on and they just walk and it just scans everything around it. And then it sends you a something similar to this, but blank. And you say, this is C29. This, we label the rooms. And then they would also then go back in once we label the rooms. They would put in all the exit routes. I would give them the plans that we have in place. They would then put those in, put those arrows in, primary, secondary, and so forth. But yeah.
Something else that's on the list that I put ensure reliable fuse boxes with accurate labels. That came out at the last meeting.
No,
That's,
it needs, yeah.
Jared can speak to that, but I know Lori mentioned it with the kitchen. We have other issues where sometimes a fuse blows and that happens, right? But it's like on the opposite side of the building or something. It's just kind of weird. And so just making sure that that's reliable and solid and well labeled. But I didn't have any pictures of that. Update the exterior door signs. The same reason we built the field house, so some of those numbers are out of date, and that's just a security thing. Install hallway and directory signs and a new PA system. I went ahead and put that on here because it was on my original list, but I think those things are both in the works. I know I've put in, they've given me a PO for the directory signs and the hallway signs, so we're already working on that. And then sounds like we're going to make progress on the PA over spring break. So those are things that we're already accomplishing. Repave the parking lot and paint crosswalks and fire lanes. The back of the building, we need a crosswalk from where you walk out of the cafe and walk into the football area. Because we go through there at lunchtime, and I want to have the yellow crosswalk back there. And then the front of the back of the building and the very front of the building, we don't want people parking along there. That's a fire lane, and we need to extend that to the front of the field house, that west side of the field house. And then behind the building, we need some orange striping or yellow striping back there so people don't park people in when they're trying to pull out of those parking spots. Now, the athletic room. So I took a picture of Tony and they're working. It is an updated space. We're so grateful for our relationship with Hendrix that they provide this. They provided this equipment stuff for it. What I don't have a picture of is the door pile that we get during football season and basketball season, because that is literally standing right at the door. That's the size of that space. And so they're all spilled out into that main front hallway. It's just tiny compared to the needs that we have for kids. So again, with camera moving spaces, we have an opportunity to take that front area where classrooms at, and we'll see that on the walk, that we could spread this training room area out more. Another bench, get an ice machine in there, have other, like he's got a bike there where kids can exercise, have more spaces for kids so that we're not bleeding out into the hallway. And it makes sense to have it back there. We had talked about when we thought we might put the building on the back of the building, that we would add a training room as part of that project potentially. And when it got moved out front, we didn't include that in the project. And that's okay, because during football season and softball and baseball, it's not a bad thing to have that training room on the back of the building, but yet it's still out in a main hallway, so it's also still very public, so that helps protect Tony as well.
What will you do with that space?
We've actually talked about we've got a couple of pieces of equipment that was in the old weight room that teachers use. And so we thought we would put those couple of pieces of equipment in that small room and make that just for teachers so they can exercise in there instead of being in the weight room area. Enlarge the exterior cafe door. In this picture, you can see how little it looks, right? And that doesn't even go all the way over to the kitchen area. That one little exit is the only way you can get out of there other than going into the hallway. And it just feels undersized given the number of people that could be in that space to not be able to evacuate outside easier. The only way to evacuate outside is to go into the kitchen and go out through the kitchen door. So I just want that to be a double door, but it's kind of expensive because you can see the wiring and stuff right around the door. But that's why I feel like it needs to be part of the project. We were asking the other day about what does it look like at the end of the school day. At the beginning of the school day, it's kind of a different problem because people are coming in and getting backed up to the road, but you can kind of see what it looks like at the end of the day. It's just a lot, right? And again, people are kind and they navigate it. But if we had better solutions, that'd be great. The lower gym bleachers, we've been replacing them and we're out of replacement pieces. And what I'm hearing is they don't make them for what we have right now. We're out of red ones, and that's a lot. There's a lot of red in the gym. So where you stand is starting to tear up in places, and now we don't have replacement bleachers for when they're starting to crack and chip. And I showed you some pictures of current damage that we have. Again, bleachers are expensive, so it feels like something you can't just kind of piecemeal that. It's like we really need new lower bleachers.
When were these replaced?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I think that's been those bleachers the whole time I've been teaching here. They replaced the
Yeah.
uppers.
You remember, Brian? Because they were wood when we were in school.
Yeah, it would have been, it may be 15, 20 years. I mean, it's
been over 20.
Huh?
Been over 20 years
I was
ago.
gonna say, 'cause
Yeah.
Because when I
It's-
came
it's
in
time.
'05,
I don't think they were
the
wood
red
like
ones.
either. Yeah,
I,
it's been
I
a
almost
while.
wonder
The
if
bottom
it might have
red.
been that whenever they did the middle school.
Top ones were wood until 18, 19, something like
During
that.
that project, maybe.
Yeah.
I was here. When they did that, but, yeah.
Okay, so
They just don't make them like they used
I don't
to.
remember when you got hired.
Right, and they don't make
There's also
19.
refurbishing options too on bleachers that they can replace the floors and the sections as well. So you don't have to do the whole entire thing. So there is some refurbishing options on it as well.
Okay.
Just to let you know.
even those.
Yeah.
That are that old.
So we can get the pieces, but you got to replace the whole entire row.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you just have to replace the whole row.
Yeah.
So you just can't order one piece. You got to order 20.
So the frame structure is okay. It's just
For the most
seating
part.
and-
I mean, you can refurbish motors and weld frames. I mean, I don't think the frames are terrible. We just have to have somebody come in and evaluate it, whether it's worth doing that or not.
Right.
Yeah.
be a good comparison.
Yeah, get a comparison.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm taking so much time. So, but I'm on my last one, and then I can hand it off. The last thing is just the look of the school and the corporation image and appeal. Replace and renovate the football press box. I'll just go through the things that I have pictures for. I think I did these out of order. So the first one is the office entrance. This is kind of a one item, but you can see when you approach the building, it's like, where's the office? And it just doesn't stand out. And then I didn't take a picture of when you enter in, but you guys know what the white box you walk into when you enter the school too, right? It just doesn't reflect like a first impression for the school. And I think that could be improved. It wouldn't have to be complicated, but just a few things to draw your eye visually to the fact that that's the office entrance. Again, kind of another wish list item. When you look at the new swim front and you look at the front of the gym, wow, it would look really different if that was brighter, right? When you see those dark wood doors versus how it looks going into the pool. So there's other schools that have where you can look into the gym. We have a gorgeous gym. It's so pretty. And so just imagine how much bigger that commons would feel if you walk in and you look into the pool and then you look into the gym. It would make such a difference to have new doors with glass in them on that north side. Renovate the concession stand. This is one of those pretty kind of behind. A lot of people don't see it, but wow, it's kind of bleak, right? When you look how dated that is. I think the freezer in the back looks like something that's been out in somebody's barn for a long time because it kind of has that feel of the freezer back there. So if we could do it like we did the outside concession stand, right? We updated that when we did the annex. So if we could do something comparably inside, that would be more appetizing and just reflect our school better. And this one's, I think these are the worst pictures on here, right? Mercy heaven. When you look at this football press box, what you can't see are the dead flies and the mouse droppings. But it is bleak up there. So I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if we can do like we did with the annex where we renovate it. But it's also really tight. You can see where the stools are at, and you've got to have people up there that are announcing and running the clock. And then other people want to be in there too, right? And the more successful you are, the more people who want to be in there. And we just don't have room for them. And then you can see right in the middle where everybody's sitting is the ladder that goes up to the top where people are filming. So the sign on the front doesn't have our current state championship on it. So that needs to be remedied. And it's just yellowed over time. And again, we've tried to make it look a little bit nicer. I know we added the signs last year to dress it up just a little bit, and that helped, but I just don't think it really stands out now that the rest of the facility looks so nice. And we just don't have a place to have people when they're there to cover the game. And so Troy might be able to speak just a little bit more to that too. I mean, if you have any questions on.
Yeah, I think the thing is, and Tana touched on it, it's the price of success. kind of, our programs have gotten so much better. We've had a lot of success out there. We've updated the rest of the facilities. And it's on most given nights, I mean, just on Friday nights, you've got usually one or two radio stations. You've got a television crew, whether it come out of Indianapolis or in Denver. The normal 4 or 5 people it takes to run the event. It's tight. We've got people sitting out on the landing area out there. We tried to update a little bit. We put the little air conditioning heater thing in there, so it's at least it's not 100 degrees in there. But yeah, it's just with everything going on that we've done out there, the rest of the facility, track meets, even in the spring, it just a lot of it is appearance. In the fall, it's more of a usage type of thing, just needing more space and more area to do the things that we need to do out there.
And then I think it's the last one yet, is one of the things that teachers ask for. They love the tables that are out behind the cafeteria. That doesn't have any shade coverage. They would love to have an outdoor learning space. And this feels like a good spot. If you look at it, it's to the east of the memory garden. It's flat out there already because the old quarterback club building used to be out there. So if we could put some concrete out there and put up a shelter and put some tables and stuff out there, I know we would use it a lot. And then it would also get use in the evenings in the fall and the spring when we have events out there as well. So it'd be kind of a multi-use type thing. So that's my kind of overview to explain the things on the list. Do you guys have any questions for me before I hand it off to Ag?
You can take the tennis courts off your list because those are Dr. Smith and I've already worked through that. So it's being done.
All right, thanks, Aaron.
We have
And it can push down. So
We don't want to wait.
Okay.
More by each other all day.
say your pictures first.
Okay. So wow, this has been a while since we've first initially talked about, I think when I got hired here in 2022, hey, our goal is that you're going to start an Ag Powers program. At a school that didn't really know what that looked like, and a lot of people are still learning what that looks like, and we're still evolving, which is really cool. So what we do is engage with students. So Mrs. Gardner talked about when you talk about what kids want in school, it's hands-on all the time. And I think a place that you see that a lot of the time is the ag department. This was actually all within the last week of what we've been doing. So electricity in that first picture. I've done my first big shop project with my middle schoolers because my middle schoolers, I have the shop. So that's one of the big things that they ask is, when are we going to get the shop? When do we get in the shop? And I've kind of been nervous to get them in the shop. But I took the plunge this past semester. So just a couple weeks ago, we finished up learning the engineering design process through them looking at blueprints of different birdhouses. So it also incorporates our natural resources that a lot of our students really like. And they had to match a bird to a specific birdhouse. They learned how to read scale. I'm attempting to teach them again how to read a ruler. And sometimes that's a lot of fun. That's been almost a week just learning how to measure and read scale. And then eventually, after they've done all that, they get to design and build their own. So did every birdhouse come out beautiful? I'll let you decide. There's still some in the shop. But my big goal with them was just the confidence that they gained learning. Some of them did not want to use a saw when we started. And then watching their friends use a saw, it was cool watching some of them actually use a miter saw by the end. And you can see there just learning how to use the different tools. Hopefully they're all going to be homeowners or going to live somewhere that they're going to potentially have to do some repairs. So just knowing that, okay, I in middle school, I used a tool. So bringing that into this space is something that I've been really proud of. And if you talk to any of the 8th graders that went through it, Kylie probably came home talking about it. I saw in one of those pictures. It's been a lot of fun, and just I'm getting to see them thrive. And then Mrs. Lyon can talk about this next picture that was really cool.
So this is a project that my student teacher and I did last week, and I had to bail on him. Unfortunately, I was sick for the last couple of days, so I missed the tail end of it. But they are doing R&D with sausage making, and so they learn the whole process about sausage and all the ingredients, because there's I don't know, 7 I think different components that go into sausage. It's not just you grind up the meat and stuff it in a casing, but there's some chemistry behind it. And they made their own recipes,
and they tried their own recipes and they adjusted them and then they got to make them again. And then we're working with Mitch Myers in town, which he runs Myers Market, and he helped kind of guide through it. He came through as a guest speaker, but he also said that the kid with the best recipe, he would potentially sell our sausages in town for some like a special unique project that he did. But you guys can see they're all kind of like stuffed around my little demonstration table, and we had 2 sausage makers with a whole class full of kids. We were late every single day that we were making it, and it took us 2 days to make it both times, and we were significantly late just because the space that we had, the facilities, we only had 2 sausage stuffers and only so many bowls and spaces and tables. But it was the project itself was a lot of fun. I've never made sausage before until the Monday before they did it on Tuesday. So I learned with them and it was awesome. But some other things that we do, we shared some of these stats with you guys last time when we came and spoke in January, but we do as many hands-on real-world skills with kids as possible, and we work with over 400 kids in the building, and that's not like that's consistently we're working with well over 400 kids, almost half of the class or half of the building here, not including what we do with our impacts through FFA, and we have an elementary science camp, and we're reaching out to elementaries in ways we did not include that. These are just kids that are in our courses, and we offer 13 courses, and like Mrs. Gardner said, we've been working to create a course offering plan that can allow kids to be in our room a little bit more throughout the day. So that's unduplicated numbers. That's not counting the kids that are taking my aquaponics class and Cam's ag power class. We also have credentials, the potential of up to 7 credentials. So we've got some welding ones that we're going to offer with the new shop.
Some OSHA, some electricity, carpentry, concrete. I've been in some meetings with talking to people because it's kind of a newer credential, but it's going to work with our accountability score. So those credentials then will go and see, you'll see it as a school. So we get points for that as well. So we're trying to really incorporate those. Also trying to emulate what Area 30 is doing. So those kids that if they want just welding, they can go there, but like they can also take my class and we'll do a little bit of all the trades and see what they like, which I'll talk a little bit more about.
Yep. And like I said, we're reaching nearly half, over 40% of the student body in this building, and then also indirect impacts in the other buildings. But we really want to make sure those kids are doing hands-on real world learning that they can take with them, not just as like a cool memory, but like an actual skill, an actual credential, an actual task that they can have with them. But this is what we have to do that with. And so you guys are going to see in a little bit, but this is Cam's shop.
Yep. So when I got here, there were no tables. There were no really power tools, except there were some wood shop stuff. So I heard it was a wood shop for a while. There's not a lot of storage. You also have to think about, yes, we're ag teachers, but we're also FFA advisors. We have a lot of stuff that comes along with being FFA advisors. So you won't see we store our FFA jackets in there. So if a kid doesn't have an FFA jacket, we have this closet they can go to. That's right now also in the shop. All of those boxes, which you'll see, those are for our Holiday Lights extravaganza, which our students led and started that a couple years ago. And we've gotten some national awards just based on that. That stuff also has to be stored somewhere. So we're grateful for the opportunities that we have. But what's really cool is we've been doing all of this and we've had all the success with a facility that we've made do. So we are very grateful, and I was really excited that I have a space to do that. A lot of those pictures you see of my 8th graders doing like we were doing a photosynthesis lab yesterday, and we do that in the shop space just because it gives a more so we're utilizing that a lot. I think Mr. Sheldon, our student teacher, came in and he was working in there. So we're utilizing the space that we have, and it is pretty much at capacity in terms of what we can and cannot do in there anymore. So leading in, so this has been, gosh, I don't know how long I've been working on. Once, I think it was Jared was the first one that told me, hey, I think we may have a new shop for you, potentially. So then my mind started turning, and so I've kind of had so many different visions of what I think this place could look like. South Putnam actually let me go to Texas when I first started to do It's more ag mechanics heavy training in electricity, in welding, in small engines. So I've been working with a professor out of Texas State, kind of getting his ideas of what he thinks this space is going to look like. So you also have to remember I'm teaching 8th grade intro to ag, which I love teaching. So this space also needs to be utilized for that. We have FFA meetings in the morning. We have our FFA practices. So the space isn't just used for an ag powers lab. And we say ag powers a lot. That's just the shortened version of it. The real course title is agriculture powers technology, or no, agriculture powers, structures, and technology. Then the second class is agriculture structures, fabrication, and design. And then there's the capstone, which is ag engineering, is what our pathway is. So there's a lot of words in there. We just call it the ag powers. So you can think about all that happens in this space, and all that can potentially happen in this space now that we are out, hopefully going to be out of this shop that we have now. So to start, you can see on the left-hand side. So that's where we are. And actually, let's start in the middle. Let's go there. So to orient yourself, if you're looking at it now, the top of the picture that is facing north, and then the doors when you walk in, that is on the south side. So if you're looking in there, we're kind of picturing that middle space being where my classroom is, because I'm also going to be teaching landscape as well in this room. So think about 8th graders in there. I'll have high schoolers. So that's like what you think about when you're thinking about a classroom. So what does that space look like? How are we going to utilize? You also got to think about if you've ever ran wood shop equipment, it makes a lot of sawdust. Currently, we do not have any extraction system in our shop. So a lot of times we just open the garage door because OSHA, if you're familiar with OSHA, which I know some of you are, there's a lot of things you have to follow, and sound is even one of them, and just having that ventilation. So taking that into account, what that space will look like, because I also have students in there that aren't in that shop. So we don't want the whole space covered in sawdust. So that those kind of side purple lines we've looked at, those are simply these big curtains that basically you can pull out to block those and kind of make it a separate space if we needed to. Still all open, because I love the concept of being able to see everything, because safety is a huge thing. You can ask Mr. Scomp about that. But right now I can't see in my shop. So if a kid goes into the shop that I'm currently in, I cannot see what happens out there. And that's a big problem. So this kind of alleviates that if we have these big curtains. We don't want to put any walls set in stone in that space, because let's say 10 years down the road, we're like, well, actually, we're just going to make this, not that's going to happen, but like this whole space is now going to be welding. We don't want those walls to be there. And then now we have to move them. So you can kind of see the blue, tealish, they kind of look like, I don't know, a bit rectangles. Yeah. Those are just kind of like countertop level, but on casters. They'd be able to move, except that back wall, that's where we could have those cabinets. So you can kind of see over in the top corner that kind of shows, just think of like just like a regular shop, what you see in there with cabinetry, stuff like that, because there's a lot of things that need locked. There's a lot of tools in there. There's a lot of things that we don't want kids to get their hands on that shouldn't be. Somebody's like, oh, I know we have an ag power shop. I'm going to go borrow a saw real quick and then bring it back. That could happen. So like having that storage there, that way stuff is locked up. So that kind of takes you into that. So we're thinking of more of a wood shop side over there on the left, a garage, putting in a garage door so that it opens up to Mrs. Line's space. So if you think about where that door opens up, that's kind of that big open area now that's gated off.
What? Little.
That's a drill press.
Okay. It's basically where the drill press is at.
Oh, yeah. So if you look right above this, yeah, it's right above the sink. So putting a garage door there, one, because when we do have kids working, so I do a pallet project. Right now we have to go outside just because there's not enough space in our current shop, but allowing those kids to have that closed off space and open, and it's a little more safe over there. And then when we are doing big projects, so elementary science camp is a big thing that we do in the summer. And it's one of our biggest recruiters, but having that space open from my space to Mrs. Line's space. And we figured that is the best spot for the garage door. The gate, when it is open, does come in front of that, but when it's closed, it does not block it. So that's something to think about. I've talked to Jared a lot about this as well.
Which it doesn't need to be open unless
No.
the gate's closed anyway.
Correct. So if we have
it's
students
kind
out
of a
there, we don't want that
win-win for
gate
that
open.
purpose
So
anyway.
yeah, kind of does that. And if we ever need to pull equipment in, so we already have, which kind of jumping ahead, but we already have kids talking about what they want their capstone project to be. Two boys want to fix up our aquaponics trailer because it is getting a little bit outdated. So that's one of their goals. And then they also want to start building a tractor pull or a truck pull truck. So our kids already have these ideas of what they want to do in the space, and they just haven't had the time of day to do it because they are in school all day. Area 30 doesn't really offer anything like that. So what's really cool with the capstone is we can pair them with somebody in our community. So whether that's a farmer that wants a tractor restored, they could bring that in and work with our students there. So we see a lot of opportunity for our student-led ideas and what they can do in this space, which also ties back into that work-based learning that they have to have those hours on their diploma. And what better way to get that than on a project that they want to work on in our building and being able to show that. So that's something we're really excited for. And our students, I think, have talked about it almost every day since they heard we're getting a new shop. I'm not even joking.
The curtains would be, I don't know if we were imagining, they're like a vinyl industrial curtain. So you can see through them. So you could still see through them, but yet it would block debris from going from one side to the other. And just another thing to note too, everything that looks like desks with chairs on them, those are all movable, mobile cabinets with storage up underneath all of them is what we kind of have sat down and talked about. So that way everything can be pushed against the wall and the whole thing can be opened if you need to open it up.
Yep.
So that's one thing we had sat down and talked about to try to make that space as open and as useful as possible if we need it.
Mm-hmm.
If you need
Absolutely.
to, yeah.
Which leads us to kind of the most exciting part, so that I'm really excited for, is the new welding part of the lab. So I don't know if you know this, welders are in need as well as all the trades, but also our students can make a really good living off of being a welder. And what better way to offer that than in our Ag Powers? And it's actually in my state standards to teach, but I've not been able to teach that because we don't have the facility to meet those standards. So that's something that we're lacking in our Ag program. Because if you go to any that have an Ag Powers, the first thing that they have is welding, let alone everything else. So we're good on the other side. So now it's bringing in this welding, and our kids are really excited for this. There's also a welding contest in FFA. We don't compete in that because we can't. So I have a lot of kids that are interested in wanting to compete in welding as well and bring more recognition to our school and showing that we're doing cool things. So our idea is that we have 6 booths, each with a welder, having a fume hood on each of them, basically taking up all of that. That big machine that's kind of up there in the middle, that is a CNC plasma table. So if you are not familiar with with fabrication of any kind, that's kind of a standard in any ag program now that you go into that teaches Ag Powers, is they're gonna have one of those machines. That's one of the big ticket items that at first maybe like, oh my gosh, but think about what we can do with that, and especially with our work-based learning and those students with capstone. So if you've walked around the building, you've probably seen metal cutout signs. That's what we could do now in-house with a machine like this. So students designing and then going into that and looking at what our students can do. Jared had a really cool idea, which is giving our students more autonomy. So those little red boxes, each student having their own cart with their own tools if they're in this Ag Powers block, so that we're trying to think of real world here. So when you go, if you go to Crown, they have their stations, they know where their stuff is. They are 100% responsible for those tools and what that looks like for them. So just really giving our students that real work experience and a little bit of all the trades in this full encompassing shop that's also a classroom, that's also used by our community for FFA, hopefully with partnerships. And then on top of that is allowing us to partner with other classes around the school. So there is so much happening around our school, and this is a really cool space that we would love to share with others. So just on, we came up with a huge list. So just like to rattle them off real quick is what's really cool is the spaces by the middle school. We already work really well with our middle school science teacher, so incorporating them even more. If my students are learning wiring, our middle schoolers are also learning about energy. So how can we incorporate our students with those middle schoolers and getting them excited to one day get to teach in that shop? The digital design class, if we can partner with them. On the list, you'll see our laser engravers as well. So if you can look at that cup, I think it's Lee's, that's the Eagles Yeti right there. So that's machines that we would be able to do and then work with other programs within the school for fundraisers for them, but also again that work-based learning of putting in an order and our students completing that order. That's a real life job that somebody could have, a business that they could start one day. Obviously, our principles of ag class, any of our other ag classes, computer science, the entrepreneurial class, the startup ed, and really any class that we could potentially work with within the limits of my day and what my teaching load and FFA advisory role is. Don't want to add too much onto our plate, but really working with our students and how we can get that connected to the rest of the building. Lots of ideas, and we're really excited what that's going to look like in the future as well.
I could see, I could see the art classes really drawing a picture almost, or drawing a painting, taking that and putting it into the plasma table, and then taking that design back and doing something with it in the art class. That's what I kind of see as the integral part between art and ag powers, because you have so much of that in there you could do.
And like sets and stuff. With
Yeah.
This is one thing when we were in Nashville at our ag teacher conference. This was what one of the machines did. He just did it like right there on the spot. So just little things like this is what that table can do, as well as those cups. We were talking with Mrs. Garner earlier about getting that machine also can etch in basketball. So getting our Eagle logo, or a kid that just hit their 1,000th point, giving them a monument of their achievement, and we can help that. And it's really cool. I feel like if our students are the ones doing that in-house, then ordering out. And so that's something really cool to think about, is what that, again, work-based learning process would look like.
Also, I think it would save some of our programs costs if they're going out to pay retail for those products that are customized versus if we can do it in-house at cost. So like if I just buy a Yeti cup versus I buy the custom one, it's going to cost $15 more to go through Yeti. So having that opportunity for our programs in the building was something that we were mindful of when we selected the equipment. You guys have questions about this?
Good ideas.
So this is my space then, and I'm mostly going to focus on my classroom, which at one point I think was an original science classroom to the building, and that picture on the left I think is the original cabinetry to the classroom, which is on the far east wall. And if you had whoever was in that classroom before Larry Botter, I know for sure they were there for him, they had the same countertops, and they have holes and scratches, and they used to probably be fireproof, but they're not because the particle board is coming up through them. The handles have been replaced for me, so they all are attached now. But labeling and locking is not something that I have, so I've taken a label maker and just stuck them on, which does not mean that my things get put back where they belong, including knives and chemicals and my food science equipment, which needs to be cleaned so that it's food safe. So one thing that is completely lacking from all of my storage, which is in my opinion, a safety hazard, is any ability to lock anything. And then I also have a hodgepodge, which is kind of what I wanted to show you guys. So the left picture, the middle blue picture cabinetry, and the bookshelves are all of the storage space that I have in my classroom, which is all mismatched and hand-me-down or original. And then the ability for me to secure things is just not there. And then technology, I mean, the other teachers have all said it too, but I have a pile of cords. That's literally what my desk looks like, because that's how my technology is attached to the TV with the new docking station. So it's just a puddle of cords. So what I was looking for in my classroom was all matching countertops and the ability to lock the spaces to keep my knives, my chemicals, my food equipment, my lab equipment secured. And then a couple of other things on the air handling and things in the lab, but I don't have pictures of those. But in general, we have a proposal, which is not a like itemized list, but kind of key topics that we had. The bulk of it obviously was for the ag power lab, but a few things in my classroom, which you guys can see that. Okay. Oh, did you not get those ones? Yeah, we're happy to answer questions. We talked about the biggest thing in the lab is going to be air temperature. To use that, there's one room that I just really can't use because it's at least 80 almost all the time in there. So we use it occasionally for a few labs that I need to have really good ventilation, but really air temperature in that space. And then technology and classroom storage is what I was asking for in my classroom.
Those cabinets are, I think, original to that addition.
Uh-huh.
Larry was the first one to use them.
Well, not my
Not
classroom.
that room.
The classroom was there. The lab was what was added.
So your classroom is that the room that opens up into the aquaculture?
Yep. And that was the end of the building when they added the lab.
I think that was all renovated.
Yeah,
at that time.
it was.
Okay,
It was all renovated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was 1990
Mm-hmm.
or 91.
91.
91.
That was the year that I was born or my sister was born, one of the two of us. So they're well loved. They're very well loved countertops. No, those are hand me down from Mrs. Hodges' classroom from when they did the new science
That
stuff.
was all the same. Those were all purchased at the same time.
Well, the tables that I had when I got hired were not that nice.
Yeah, they were all the same.
That whole renovation of the school, like the filling in of the little courtyard, and all that was all done at the same time. So all that stuff that's right. Those were like probably, yes.
Yeah, they're well loved. I think that was
well used.
Thanks. But that was all that we had. If you guys have questions, we're happy to answer them.
So your tables in the classroom, you're just asking for casters on them. You like
yeah, if you look through this list, if I am in the back room where it's 80, 85 degrees in the lab, I have metal tables back there, but I scratch up the floor when I move them. So just metal casters for the stainless tables. I would love to have flexible moving tables in my classroom, but that is not on the list for at least this project. That would just be an awesome extra. But those are for in the lab, so I don't scratch up the floor.
The one idea is the lab has the room where the hydroponics takes place, and then there's like the fish processing room next to it. So what Amanda's talking about is those rooms, the air isn't circulating well and it's not functioning correctly, and so those rooms get hot. So it limits some of the use out there. If we could get those cooled correctly, she's saying in some of those spaces, she could literally, her classroom would be out in the aquaponics lab all the time. Like that would be her classroom. And then Helen would move into her classroom. So they would kind of share that space. So that could potentially free up a classroom across the hall, which is where Helen's class is now. So that if they could put casters, she's got some metal tables back there that they use in the aquaponics lab. So we could put those.
When you're talking about the air,
yeah,
are you talking about putting it in an air system that just
there's no air conditioning in
all.
the current. I mean, if you think about it, there was fish in there. It really didn't need air conditioning.
No, they probably don't.
No.
No, they like it 85 or more.
Yeah. That's good heat.
I did forget about it. It's super. I love it. I'm very happy out there. It's very cozy, and that's how I like it to be. But everybody else goes out there and they're like melting, and they're like, "Can I just go back to the classroom?" Which that actually reminded me. It creates some supervision issues. It's a solid block wall between all three of those spaces. And I did have on the list, and I forgot to put it on the slides, but having like a glass garage door or just windows or something between those spaces, or even just glass double doors, because I do have 2 sets of double doors. But supervision is really a challenge out there, and I only have 1 camera in the main part of the fish lab, and I don't have any kind of security, anything between the back food or fish processing room and the plant room at all. And you guys will see, I'm sure some of you guys have been in my lab. It's cozy, and it's also just really, there's a lot of small spaces. It's easy for kids to hide, so it's just a supervision safety issue.
Questions? Anybody? Thank you.
There was air conditioning
Are we
on it,
to argue
but it wasn't
music
for air
now?
conditioning. It was only for dehumidification.
Jocelyn? I
It wasn't to
did
take the
thank you
temperature
for
down, it was
coming
just to take the
and
humidity out.
speaking. I'm
So
sorry
that's
it was
why
like
it's a
way
little
far
bitty
away
tiny
from
unit.
the actual, you know, your champion.
No, that's
video.
all it was for.
But if you remember anything that you would like to add, you just
It
let
was
me
just to
know.
take some of the real tough. It was a real, it looked like a little bitty like residential. This is all it was.
Okay, Mr.
Just for
Champion.
dehumidification.
Oh,
Thank you. All right. Real quickly, I'd like to kind of get rid of this idea that a lot of people have when it comes to our stage, and that it gets used 6 times a year and that's it. It is getting used all the time, from rehearsals to performances. FFA uses it when they do their thing that they do in the summer. It's getting used all the time. It is not just simply we do, you know, 3 concerts and 2 plays and that's the end of it. So it is getting utilized all the time. So I want to kind of make that clear. I'm going to kind of go through some of the issues that we're currently having. While I do this, I'm going to let this fun video play. But down here, you're going to watch them put together the stage extension that we have to do before every band concert because the stage is not large enough. And then over here, you're going to get to, it's very hard to tell, but if you watch closely, you're going to be able to watch the Tetris action happening where we have to undo everything to get the stuff to then repile back up. As that's playing, I'm going to kind of go through some of these issues because it's a little bit of a lengthy video. Our sound system is basically at this point on the verge of collapse. I was thinking about this today, of a good way to describe this. Basically, we are one person sneezing away from that system crashing. It's dead at this point, and I mean, there's just nothing left. There is no, we'll fix it. There is no, we'll put more duct tape on it. It's just gone. Our lighting system is not necessarily terrible. The biggest issues that we have with it is the control interface is not very user friendly. I'm the only one that knows how to work it. So it becomes very challenging because now I have to be at every event. And it is not a system that is necessarily as simple as pressing a button. Some things we can do that, like for when I'm doing a band concert, I obviously can't be back there. So some of the things are push button simple, but you know, if you're wanting something special one day, it's not something we can do. Like I said, a lot of dark zones on the stage. Kids can't see their music. We're going to see in a photo coming up where you can clearly see that actors are in shadows and things like that. And there's just not a lot of flexibility between different shows and different performances and things like that. The air handlers, hopefully we'll be able to go on the stage and you can hear the air handlers. I'll even turn them off for you so you really get that experience of the difference between them. They also physically take up a lot of room. So I could build a nice set piece that could roll off stage, but it can't roll off because the air handlers are hanging so low. So it definitely reduces the space that we have. We do not have enough storage space in general. Once again, we see the Tetris. We are utilizing, you can't see it now, but there's doors under the stage to these bays that go under. We are fully utilizing 3 of those bays currently, and then the other 2 are holding the old wooden folding chairs. So we are utilizing all that space under the stage. We're using all the space over here. We're utilizing space over here, and we're just at capacity at this point. That didn't take very long.
Yeah,
3 hours and 3 minutes. And that's every concert. And the other problem that we have is, you know, we're going back to that Tetris scene is we got to switch it from theater mode to band mode to back to theater mode to back and just constantly. I'm bringing in the scissor lift several times a year to adjust stage lights and things like that. There's also not enough space on stage. So once again, this is that extension. It's kind of hard to tell, but you can kind of see like a change in color there. And this is at the Christmas concert. So we don't use quite as much percussion equipment for that one. But at the last concert, we had the drum set all the way up here onto the extension. We had kids coming up onto this extension. I stand on this extension. So we're fully utilizing that space. And
just like Jocelyn mentioned, there is just enough room for the music stand and a kid to walk sideways when they enter and exit. So there's not a whole lot of room physically on the stage itself. Also, our stage is very high in comparison to the audience. And so we get a lot of parents that are like, my son plays tuba, and I don't know if he's even on the stage. So definitely some issues there. Poor acoustics in the cafeteria. It just echoes every direction possible. We also have some issues with those clear windows, especially during band concerts where we have a lot of people out in the hallway. It's just a massive distraction because it's just giant clear windows. And sometimes you get some middle schoolers that are coming out of the band room, heading back to the cafeteria, and they forget that glass is see-through. So that's kind of another issue that we deal with. We also lack quality on-stage rehearsal lighting, so just regular fluorescent lighting above the stage for Monday through Friday. And then also backstage, we don't have any backstage during performance lighting. I have that turned on, the 3 lights that we have, and you can kind of get a feel for that. Lack of storage. We have no place to construct props. Most of the prop construction occurs in my father's shop, and then we truck it over here. And I do all that in my spare time. So that's kind of an issue that we're dealing with. We have no dressing rooms, and then we do not have sufficient rigging up here in the above where you can see to hook lights onto and prop pieces and things like that. All we have are the structural elements to the building's construction, and they're not exactly where they need to be. And then we're getting kind of creative with how we're rigging different pieces of equipment. Also, we have some minor things in the band room. The percussion room and main door into the band room are not big enough currently. We are able to get the marimba in and out of our percussion room, but it barely clears. We kind of in the long term, we need to kind of think about getting a timpani. Well, the timpani that we have is dead. But the problem is if we were to go out and buy a new timpani, it cannot fit through the current doors that we have to even get in the room. And I know a school where they bought the timpani and nobody measured, and their timpani now lives on their stage because they don't have doors to get it into the band room. So we're just kind of thinking ahead there. Shelving in the instrument storage room. It's probably the original shelving from when the school was built. It's that particle board stuff. The shelves are just starting to fall apart. Kids slam their instruments in there, things like that. It's also not a very good use of space. The cubbies are the right width, but they're like super high, but they're not high enough to put 2 in. So if we got some different shelving in there, we could definitely put more instruments in there and better utilize that space. Several of the side rooms are lacking sufficient visibility into them. They have small windows and things like that. And I'll show you some pictures of what I'd like to see there. And then we currently don't really have a sound system in the band room to record or play back audio for the kids. Currently, we have my personal speakers and an amp hooked up in there, and that sort of works okay.
If we had if we did the media room, would you be able to, I mean, is that something that we could kind of multi-purpose that kind of a room, or is that totally different? I don't know.
Hearing about it and seeing it kind of for the first time, I can't comment on how we might or might not be able to utilize that. Off the top of my head, nothing is coming to mind, but that doesn't mean that we can't. So here we have our theater production. You can see that our actress over here is in a massive shadow. Basically, this whole back area creates a shadow, and then there's no good way to see it, but there's also a shadow here, which we've kind of remedied with these lights here that I made out of cans from the kitchen. Also back here, you can see this weird kind of coloration and lighting. I went to Lowe's and got some of those clamp lights, and that's how we're lighting that part back there. So if you look at the handout that I gave you, I've kind of broken this down into 3 tiers of our most critical needs and going from there. As we talked about a new sound system, I've went into kind of grave detail on the technical details of what we're needing. I won't necessarily read through all that, but we definitely need speakers and amps. we'd like to be able to put some monitors in the band room so that you can hear what's going on stage, so that like students during concerts can know, oh, my group's getting ready to go up, or during a theater performance, things like that. On-stage monitors, we did a musical last year, and there was no real good way for the students to hear the music on stage, so adding some on-stage monitors. We have some existing XLR, which is the audio interface ports on the stage, but they're outdated and need replaced. You'll see where our AV card is located. It's at the top of the ramp, so you can't bring things up the ramp and then turn them onto the stage. So that needs to be relocated. We need handheld mics, lapels, integrate the system, things along those lines. We would also like to add some hanging mics over the stage, specifically for theater, so we can get some better projections in that space. As far as lighting is concerned, I have this grid here. I have the 6 zones. That's what it would look like. So you would be able to independently light each of those 6 zones, or all together in combinations. We'd like to add some moving head fixtures out above the cafeteria. That way we're not having to get on the lift so much. So these lights, you could dial in right where you want them. You can dial in the beam size, and they could point to somewhere in the cafeteria. We don't really have any spots for spotlights since we don't have an elevated platform. So you could utilize that where, you know, we've had several shows where the actors have came in through the side door and walked up the aisle and things like that. So you could utilize one of those lights to be able to do that without needing to have a spotlight operator and everything like that. I get into some technical details here on like RGBW, that is red, green, blue, white, and the A is amber. That's just talking about the color generators. We want to make sure that we're able to do the full range of colors and things like that. That once again, that's tying into that flexibility piece. I go into the details on the moving headlight, and then this is the control system. Our current control system is designed for DJs, and this is a really weird concept to understand, but we can't dim the lights. I can make them brighter, I can make them dimmer in a moment, but I can't like fade a light with the way the controls currently work. So having a new control system where we could actually fade the light down or fade it up would be nice. And really a lot of this is about creating more flexibility so that when ag comes in and uses the space, or when they're doing a presentation, we're able to do more things with lighting and sound than we are currently capable of. We also want, this is something me and Mrs. Gardner have talked a lot about, is having an integrated on-stage control system. We actually had some companies come out and kind of talk to us about what some of our options were. We kind of like the system called QSYS, and basically there'd be a touchscreen mounted on the wall, and it would say band, theater, other. And if ag wanted to use the space, they would come in and hit other, and then it would say lights, audio, visual, and you could select, oh, I want the stage lights. You select that, and then you have maybe 3 options, all on, 50%, whatever. Go over to the sound. I'm going to grab the handheld mic. I need that turned up, and then go over to video and go, I need the projectors on. So having that ability to where anybody could walk in, and then we can also password protect that. And like the band one, you know, it may have some more functionality to it. So then only I'm the one utilizing that, the drama, etc. Relocate the air handling system. Fix on-stage electrical panel. There is a sad electrical panel on stage that needs some serious work that you're going to see. I'd also like to add some additional circuits to the very back wall. That's the west wall, and then the northeast wall is the north section of the main opening of the stage. We need some additional electric circuits there for when we're hooking up Christmas lights at Christmas time, or we're hooking up some of these other lighting components and amps and junk like that we're using. I'd like to add some stage edge safety lighting. We did a couple years ago have a student that fell off the edge of the stage during a rehearsal. So we definitely want to add some edge lighting. And then I talked about having some sort of maybe electric drapes that come down over those windows for during performances. Going
Oh,
into the,
oh, sorry.
oh,
Do you
go
know, is there room in the electrical box for more? Okay.
yes, yes. We're only utilizing one side of the electric panel.
Oh, okay.
You'll be able to see the other side. Going on to the tier 2, improving the stage rehearsal lighting, backstage performance lighting. We've me and Mrs. Gardner have kind of talked about changing out that front curtain, the grand drape as it is officially called. For one thing, it says it just has SPHS, which doesn't really reflect the building currently. It's showing its age as well. And then it's blue, and that's fine, but it's the only grand drape I can think of that's blue. So moving to a red color, which is more standard, would be nice. Administration may feel differently on color choice. That I'll leave that to them. We would like to add a mid-stage traveler. So that is a black curtain that would be midway back on the stage to close. A lot of times we'll have a set in the back that we'll use for most of a play. And then we have that one outdoor scene. So being able to close a curtain mid-stage and hide that scene and then be able to do an outside would be a much needed element. Enlarged percussion room and band room doors, as we said earlier, and the new shelving for the instrument storage room. Something like this would be a lot nicer, where we're better utilizing that vertical space. Currently, we can have 3 tiers. I think this is very reasonable that we could get a 4 tier in there and increase our capacity significantly. Tier 3, currently on the side, those curtains are called tabs. What I'd like to change is to a rotating tab leg system. So this is an example here. So you can rotate them 90 degrees so they become what are called legs, which is a straight vertical curtain in relation to the audience. That's good for like a band concert and things like that, so students and equipment can move in. Also, even during theater, being able to move pieces in and out. And then when you're actually performing or you're doing a theater, then you can rotate it 90 degrees and have it going this way, and then it becomes a tab. Also adding a cyclorama to the back. That is a really fancy name for a white curtain. And the neat thing that we can do with that is we can project lights onto that. You could even set up a projector on that. But when you're doing, let's say, outdoor scenes, you can have that blue color. We're going into the forest. It could become green. So it allows you to have this backdrop that can change colors during the performance and things like that. A new storage loft above the ramp. So if they took out the air handling, and I wish Jared was here to comment on this maybe a little bit more, but we have a ramp there. Well, there's all this vertical space that's not getting utilized. If we could somehow build a floor there, now we've got more storage capacity utilizing that vertical space. And we could put things, maybe walls up there, or furniture, or things maybe that we're not using all the time, but we just, we don't want to get rid of. A new rigging grid. So this over here is an example of a rigging grid. Basically, it's just pipes that are crossed over and hooked onto each other, and then they just hang from the existing structure. And then that gives us more mounting points and more flexibility. That would also get our mounting points closer to the stage. They're pretty high up, so we're already having to chain things down closer to the stage. And it's very difficult because we can't get the lift onto the stage. So we're doing everything via very large step ladders, which at times makes me scared. But I do it for the kids. But having some better rigging points that we can, giving us more flexibility. In an ideal world, we'd have some sort of fly system where the battens could actually come down to ground level. We could hook on and then take them back up. I'm not sure that we could do that in our current space. It would be something worth investigating. What we have currently is what we would call a dead hung rigging system, meaning it's just dead hung from the ceiling. New instrument storage room, music library doors with large windows. Down here, this is the door going into the athletics hallway. So something like this, it's basically a window with a little bit of a frame around it. Going right back to the supervision aspect, we have several small rooms in the band area. Some of them are real nice and have giant windows, and then we have 3 that don't. So that would allow us to use those spaces, percussion, you go work on that little section in the percussion room, and now we can monitor that space more effectively. And then I have a more aesthetically pleasing proscenium arch. So this fancy thing that goes up and over is the proscenium arch. And I'm going to go backwards for a second, back to this. The video kind of shows it better, maybe. If you look, we got the sides. Nobody ever put the top on. So it'd be nice if we could maybe somehow incorporate a top piece to kind of finish that off. I don't know that that is a real technical piece. If we had a good carpenter who was willing to work with us, we could probably do something like that. I don't know what that looks like, but that is kind of what I envision and what I think that we kind of need. Looking, and that's to work with the space that we have. I'm going to throw this out here. This is my unicorn. I'm not going to really talk about it. You can look at it, you can fade it. But this is kind of my unicorn of what I think would be a real nice addition onto the building to incorporate a better stage, larger stage. Like I said, it's my unicorn, but I'll throw that out there. If it sticks, great. I'd love it.
So just guessing, I mean, that seemed like a lot to me. Just to make better use of what we have, or to just update what we have, right?
Yeah.
So, and I know you can't give me this specific answer, but I'm just going to ask you anyway. Between, if we were to get all of this done, would we be?
I can comment on the lighting and sound because we did have somebody come out and give us a quote for the lighting and sound. Let me see somewhere.
You mean to improve what we have now?
Yes, to improve the lighting and sound of what we have now. Somewhere is a grand total. Thought there was. Am I missing? And I have copies of this too, if you really were curious.
So the unicorn is the.
Bumping out towards the football field.
Yeah. But this is the cafeteria, or is this the band room?
On the right.
This is the cafeteria.
Well, I know somewhere they put a grand
Where's
total.
the band?
The grand total for lighting and sound alone was 117,000. That's the only price I can speak to.
Do you know of schools that have like what do they call them, the cafetorium, or is that right?
Yes, I've seen a lot of different cafetoriums. I would have to say ours is by far the worst one I've ever seen. It's bad. I don't know how else to put it.
Well, but I guess what I'm asking is if the cafeteria needs reworking and the stage, which is really part of it, needs reworking, then are there buildings or are there schools around where if we wanted to, we could go see a well done cafeteria?
Yeah. Clay City, I know for sure, has a real nice one.
Okay.
In perspective, in mind, like talking like 150 students to 80 students, somewhere in that range, something we can compare school size. We don't want to look at.
Right. Right, of course. Clay City, like I said, they have a real nice, and it's been recently redone. So that's a smaller school than us, but that would give a good perspective on what you could do. Now, part of it too is, they recently redid theirs, but their layout and their space to begin with was also bigger and better layout wise. They already had what's nice about theirs is it was a tiered cafeteria to begin with. So that kind of adds to the element. But as far as lighting and sound, they did all very similar things. I think they have a touchscreen integration system. That's what I know of for sure. And I could reach out to the band director community and find out, who's some places that have had some recent work done to a cafetorium.
And our cafeteria, Tana, isn't it at capacity?
Yeah,
too much?
we kind of talked about this a little bit
Yeah.
last week. I think that's part of the reason I was trying to figure out like where we're at with class sizes. Um, it's meeting our current needs, so I guess that it's just the question of whether or not we think we're going to grow. Um, if we think we're going to stay about where we're at, we can use what we have. I mean, it's always nicer to have more space. I mean, that the kids are table to table. I mean, we don't have any extra room. It's a lot nicer in the fall and spring now because we do have the outdoor seating and that makes it really nice. So it's not that we couldn't always use more space. I know we kind of were talking about that last week. We're a little bit landlocked there in that particular space where we're at. If there was an easy solution, I feel like we probably, we'd grab it because it'd be lovely to have more space. We're able to fit everybody right now. I don't want to draw out that answer, but
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You put a skylight on the current stage.
Actually, that is not
I
unrealistic.
shouldn't have said that.
Well, above the current stage, there is fire vents, so there's already holes in the roof, so you could do it.
But so this stage would be facing the cafeteria, so we'd still be seating.
Yes, yes, but you would eliminate the current stage, so you're increasing your cafeteria size, which may be able to help Lori out by bumping her space or utilizing more of the cafeteria. And, when you enter, as opposed to entering on the side, now you're entering on the back of the performance area.
That would have some connectivity to current classroom.
Right.
What's interesting is, we were talking about the stage at Central and we kind of like made some comments on the stage at Fillmore, and now
Yeah.
the stage is kind of the same. We take some stage parts and make a big stage.
make one stage, a Franken stage.
I don't know. Like it's stage time.
And I've also had the thought about, is there a way that we can, combine resources? I've had the thought about, is there a way that, we build some multi-purpose space between here and Central, and then, Central and us use it.
Trade-offs just don't make it worth.
Right. And that's,
It's always a trade-off.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to concerts and it's crowded and it's awful. Sorry, it's a little bit embarrassing. Because you have older people, you have grandparents, I mean, those come, right? And they're sitting on the horrible. And then more people come in and everybody's scrambling to get the chair set up for the concert. Well,
and we're averaging about 300 people per concert, give or take. We've gotten to the point where we've split the Christmas concert up to kind of help with the seating and spread out the parents a little bit to help address some of those issues.
So what other things could this be utilized for if we did the unicorn? Like, is there anything that you can add to that would help justify? Even if it's educational space of some sort, other than what you're already using the stage for.
I definitely feel like as we've talked about before, we're already doing these other things in there. I think that adds more opportunities there. And I feel like a lot of times when somebody goes into this, they just close the curtain a lot of times. And part of that is the stage is overly elevated. I mean, if we built this unicorn, let's get that stage way closer to ground level. Maybe a couple steps up, but not, as high up as we're going. So maybe that, you might see some more usage there. As far as during the day, I've seen some schools, but part of the problem that you have during the day is once you start building a set, you might be able to utilize that space, for a big part of the year. And then you got 2 or 3 weeks where you're going to build, you go and you build this on there. and then there's not really a whole lot of room. And we don't want kids up there messing with props and things like that. But I definitely think there's opportunities in there where we need some additional space for a lab or an activity. That's definitely space we could use. Just as long as we're being cognizant of that.
Even if tearing some of that out gives you more room in the cafeteria, some of the things you were talking about, Lori was talking about. When you start looking at those things, it starts to make more sense to do something like that.
I mean, I don't think this is going to become, if we did the unicorn, it's not going to be this thing that we go, wow, isn't that pretty? And we don't use it. I see, and it's like anything else. Once we have it, you're going to come up with uses, things that we never even thought of, are going to come about.
Can I add one thing to that?
You sure can.
I went to the NJHS inductions this year to take pictures, and one thing I noticed was we couldn't fit all the inductees on the stage for a picture. They had to be in multiple rows, and then we're trying to figure out spacing wise because there was just so many of our students excelling that we couldn't fit everyone on stage. And another problem, we have an FFA banquet, not enough space in the stage to try and get students across the stage and still have time for pictures. So just that bigger space would be something we could utilize for other banquets, activities, stuff like that.
You're going to lose some parking. I mean, that's for sure.
I believe there's a sanitary line right outside that cafeteria door that runs right along the building. So that would have to be moved. You can't build on top of that, but that would have to be moved. But yeah.
I feel like you probably have to move the ticket booth. I mean, I'm just kind of looking at it, but you'd have to move the ticket booth maybe further up the hill a little bit, toward the football field, and then you'd have to pave. It's almost like you probably have to shift the lane maybe a little bit further south.
Because the buses still go back there, right?
Baseball diamond, there's not much room to move because the baseball diamond's right there.
Train there. They drop off at the cafeteria door in the morning, right? Yeah.
I think what he's saying there's sewage.
Yeah, that's what they were saying.
And that would not work.
I mean, could it be external? It doesn't have to be attached. There's space around. I mean, right, exactly. More realistic would have.
Yeah. We constantly we get into the circular issue of we know we need more stage space, but then everywhere we put it, then we run into a whole bunch of other problems. And Mr. Klein and I were talking about, could we bump it, back into the band room and then redo but then you run into it's not the same roof line and it just.
If you lower the stage, would you need the same roof line?
Without knowing the difference in height, I don't know.
Yeah, that would be something we'd look into.
I think it's pretty significant.
Okay.
Yeah, you would at that point probably have to put the stage on ground level, which would I've seen that done in some places. I don't recommend it, but
you wouldn't be able to see, right? If you're seated in a chair and the stage is at ground level, then
Yeah,
the person in front of you would block you.
So
Isn't that why it's elevated, right?
It had to be a tiered cafeteria or a lowered stage.
Yeah.
So.
Nothing. We had the gas line moved.
Yeah, the gas line would be moved. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe storm drain. Maybe would be that point. I don't know. Jared would probably know that question. Yeah.
So we've captured the wants, and we don't have to figure it all out here. Is this does this pretty much capture all of everything? And there's no oh, and by the way,
I mean that's
so if we can digest this and maybe have another conversation about this and some of the other things.
I mean, this is it. And like I said, I mean, that's just a unicorn thought out there. I'll throw it out there. But this other list that I gave you with the kind of priority tiers on it, I mean, that's going to make some pretty big impacts, and it's going to make the most out of what we got. So, at the end of the day, there's still no prop shop, there's still no dressing rooms, and I don't know there's just no way with where we're at,
There's a prop shop, Ag Powers.
But the problem then becomes, how do you get it on? And then the other problem that we run into, okay, we build this big piece of moving set, there's nowhere to move it off stage 2, and that kind of plays into it as well. And a lot of this, when we go on stage, you're going to get a much better perspective of kind of the spacing, and because we already have a rolling room, but it's limited.
Okay. So
what you're saying is you need an overhead access door back here so you can get the props in when you do.
An idea. And I mean that could be a very, and I've thought about that. And if the ramp wasn't there, I might even have suggested, putting a garage door, because I am South Vermilion stage. They don't have a very big stage, but they have a big garage door on the end. And what they do is they hope it's not raining on show days, and they roll their stuff outside, and then that's how they do things. So I mean, that is a possibility.
I was thinking, like, because your stage is going to be elevated a little bit. Yeah. You incorporate some sort of, like, some other use of, like, a dock door or something that's that.
Absolutely. I think they would love having a dock sometimes. I don't know. Yeah.
Kind of like right along that same area where you be getting things from.
There's a lot of times where Jared has to go get the fork truck to get a pallet off or something, and it can be sometimes an inconvenience to have to get a truck to get one pallet off or something, and having the ability to back up and load.
Okay.
There and just leave it.
Well, thank you all. I know this takes a lot of work, but we have a lot of work yet to do. But thank you for participating. Thank you for being here. The board will be doing their walk around inspection. Everybody is welcome to come along.